If you found out we were not alone, if someone proved it to you beyond any doubt, what would that do to everything you think you know? Disclosure Day is Steven Spielberg's 2026 return to the alien genre, his first since E.T. Let's break it down. We open at a boxing match. A man named Daniel Kellner is in the crowd but not watching the fight. Two agents move in and tell him plainly, if he wants to see his girlfriend Jane alive, he steps outside right now. Agent Boyd leads him out to meet Noah Scanlon, the head of a private intelligence firm called Wardex. They grab his backpack and search it. An agent produces a bag containing the device Daniel stole. Noah puts on gloves to retrieve it. Daniel has already put on his own glove. When Noah opens the box, it's empty. Daniel pulls the device from his own pocket. Every weapon in the area points at him. Noah orders everyone to lower their weapons. A shot near this device could trigger it, and nobody there knows what that means. Daniel uses those few seconds. He grabs his backpack and gets into the car with Jane. Noah warns him he can't escape. Daniel drives anyway. Jane is bewildered. She tells him Wardex said he committed treason. He promises to explain everything, but first he needs her to hold the steering wheel while he carefully places the device back into its box. He calls Hugo Wakefield, his associate running this whole operation from the other side, and tells him what happened. Hugo tells him to hold onto the device, find a safe place, get rid of anything that can be tracked. Daniel smashes his phone immediately. Jane says she knows somewhere they can go that Wardex wouldn't expect, somewhere he has never been. Back at Wardex headquarters, Noah is dealing with multiple alarms at once. Agents report that the employees who failed to show up have been tracked. But the more unsettling news is what Boyd delivers next. Hugo Wakefield, director of biological assets, is missing. His desk has been completely cleared. Daniel was employed at Wardex as a cybersecurity officer, and so far no information has officially leaked. But clearly, a strategic team has been working behind the scenes for some time. Daniel and Jane arrive by taxi at a convent. Jane embraces Sister Mora the moment they walk in. Sister Mora tends to Jane carefully before turning to Daniel and telling him she doesn't want to know what he did. But if Jane is to stay here safely, he needs to keep her out of whatever this is. Daniel is surprised to discover Jane was ever a nun. She explains she was a novice, never fully ordained, and that she left 3 years ago after losing her sense of calling. She never told him because people tend to judge her when they find out. Daniel tells her the full truth. He works, or worked, for Wardex, a secret government-adjacent agency. He stole data he was supposed to protect because he believes people have a right to know what it contains. He was in prison for cybercrime before Wardex recruited him. He apologizes for dragging her into something this dangerous. Meanwhile, in Kansas City, a weather news reporter named Margaret Fairchild lives with her boyfriend Jackson. She shows him her audition tape for an anchor position. She wants bigger stories, more than weekend forecasts. He is enthusiastic, but she is restless. Then a small bird flies in through the window and lands on the table directly in front of her. Margaret zones out completely. When Jackson shoos the bird away, she snaps back and starts speaking in Russian. Fluid, natural, completely fluent. Jackson asks when she learned Russian. She has no idea what he's talking about. She cannot speak Russian. She has never studied it. On the way to work, a police officer pulls her over for speeding and asks her to step out. Margaret looks him in the eye. She tells him his wife didn't mean what she said earlier. She was just tired. He should say something nice to her when he gets home. She continues talking about what his wife likes, what he is thinking, personal details she has absolutely no way of knowing. The officer stands there in complete silence. She tells him she'll be leaving now, and she drives away. He does not stop her. At the studio, the news is running constant coverage of rising tensions between Russia and the United States, analysts describing it as a potential trigger for a third world war. Margaret's boss is visibly stressed. They go live in minutes. A Korean expert in the studio is already upset about something when Margaret arrives. Margaret tells one of her colleagues that she needs to call the police. Someone needs to stop him. Maria understands what Margaret is talking about. Margaret approaches the Korean expert and, without warning, begins speaking to him in fluent Korean she has never studied. She sorts out the situation entirely. When her boss asks how she knows Korean, she says she doesn't. She steps in front of the camera. They go live. She begins the broadcast, and something breaks. She starts speaking in a foreign language nobody in the studio can identify. The team cuts her from the feed. Margaret collapses on stage. Everyone rushes to help. Noah is in a meeting with military personnel when someone from his team calls him outside to show him Margaret's viral video. The language she was speaking matches something in Wardex's classified database. He tells his team to locate her before Hugo does. A car arrives to collect Daniel. He says goodbye to Jane, promising to come back once things are sorted. Jane gets in the car with him anyway. She wants to know what's happening. She is not staying behind. They drive away together. At the hospital, doctors run an MRI on Margaret. Results come back clean, no abnormalities. Margaret asks the doctor about the men outside. The doctor explains they're FBI and want to speak with her. Margaret looks at them and says flatly that they are not actually FBI. She also says that Daniel Kellner is someone those men want dead. The doctor tries to raise a traumatic event from her childhood. Margaret brushes it off. She doesn't remember anything like that. Jackson mentions her recurring nightmares to the doctor. She talks about animals, a house in the woods. Margaret confronts Jackson immediately for sharing that. She also wonders if her symptoms could be related to her father's Parkinson's. Then the doctor steps out. Margaret tells Jackson to act like she needs help getting to the bathroom. He alerts the doctor. They slip out through the back entrance. She grabs her belongings, changes her clothes, and they disappear. At the safe house, Daniel and Jane notice animals outside staring directly at them through the window. Daniel comments that their gazes are unsettling. Jane shuts the window and tells him he needs to explain everything right now. He opens the drives. The first clip, President Nixon at a military airbase alongside a well-known television star, who is taken into a lab to see bodies that appear to be dead aliens. Daniel warns Jane before opening the next clip. A live alien. Doctors performing surgery on it. The creature screaming. He closes the laptop. That is only a fraction of what he has. 79 years of classified material. Daniel explains that Wardex has been working with alien technology and reverse engineering it for their own gain, keeping everything hidden from the world. He was part of it until he saw the footage. Now the truth has to come out. Jane disagrees. She argues that releasing this could destroy people's faith in God, in meaning, in the structures holding society together, especially with war already looming. Daniel says she abandoned her own faith. She pushes back. Maybe she did, but she understands how essential it is for billions of other people. She is not convinced this serves anyone. Daniel doesn't want to argue. He tells her he needs to call Hugo, but there's no signal inside. He heads outside with the bag. At the Wardex vault, agents discover 2 of the 3 devices are missing. They retrieve the only remaining one and prepare Noah to use it. Boyd warns that Hugo was the only person who understood how to operate them correctly. Noah brushes this off. He grips the device and focuses on Daniel. Nothing happens. He tries again. Still nothing. Hugo gave Daniel his job. There's something about Daniel the device cannot reach. Frustrated, Noah orders his team to pull everything they have on Jane instead. Margaret and Jackson escape the hospital and get into a car. Hugo calls her. He says he's a friend, and if that isn't true, she already knows it. She confirms the phone number he had in mind, which is Daniel's. Hugo says this proves she's the right person. People are already at her home. She cannot go back. He tells her when the time comes, she'll find them. He tells her to get rid of the phone. She throws it out of the car window, urges Jackson to drive over it, but he keeps missing. She gets out, places it under the tire herself until it's crushed, gets back in, and tells him they need to head north. She doesn't know how she knows that. She just does. Outside the safe house, Daniel is on the phone with Hugo. Hugo has sent him footage of Margaret and tells him she's the one they've been waiting for. Daniel watches the clip. He asks Hugo what's so special about her. She's just saying, "Don't be afraid of what you don't know." Hugo is stunned. Daniel says she's speaking in English. Hugo says that's impossible. Nobody else can understand her. This is when Daniel realizes something. He can understand her because of what he was given. Hugo explains there are 2 of them and tells Daniel to head to a motel. He'll send someone to collect them in the morning. While all of this is happening, the grass outside starts forming patterns, shapes that mirror something embedded in the device. Daniel watches it, but doesn't fully understand it yet. Inside, Jane tries to freshen up, and then her pupils begin to shift. Noah is using the device on her. He manipulates her movements. She claps hard and breaks free momentarily. She grabs her crucifix and starts to pray. Noah appears in the room, not physically, but through the connection so complete that his presence fills the space. He asks where they are, where Daniel is. She tells him she doesn't know, that Daniel is outside. She clutches the cross and inflicts pain on herself to sever the link. It works, briefly. Noah is weakened, but he pushes through and re-establishes the connection, channeling everything he has into maintaining it. He asks her about the previous night, the route they took. Jane reveals everything, uncontrollably, the information pouring out of her. Noah relays it to his team. They pinpoint the location. Noah tells Jane a team is on the way, but if they fail, he'll need her to step in. He quotes scripture at her. He says out of love for Daniel and for the world, she has to stop him. He tells her to look to her right and grab the knife. She does so before she can stop herself. On the road, something snaps in Margaret. She grabs Jackson's phone and calls Daniel. She tells him not to go back to the house. People are coming to kill him. She doesn't know who they are, but they've found him. Jackson takes his phone back, uncomfortable. Daniel is already approaching the house and sees agents surrounding it. Inside, Jane sits facing the window, hiding the knife, still partially under Noah's control. Daniel sneaks past the perimeter, gets into the car, drives through the crowd, and manages to break through while agents fire at him. He bursts into the house, grabs Jane, and gets them both out. A chase ensues immediately. Noah, still connected to Jane, forces her hand toward Daniel with the knife. A car crashes into them. The knife drops. Jane picks it up again. Daniel calls her name. In a moment of clarity, fighting the connection with everything she has, she drives the knife toward her hand. The link shatters. The device drops, and Noah goes into a seizure. The agents shoot out Daniel's tires. The road narrows, and a pursuing car crashes, blocking the way. Jane hugs Daniel once she's back to herself and apologizes. He tells her it wasn't her fault. Boyd rushes in and grabs the device, and disappears. He reappears minutes later and collapses. The agents secure the device. Daniel drives on, but the road ends at dense jungle. They get out and Jane picks up a rock, places it in the accelerator, and they watch the car plunge into the water. The agents arrive and see the submerged vehicle. Daniel and Jane slip away quietly through the trees. Jackson and Margaret pull into a gas station. People are panic buying, filling carts, the threat of war making the shelves empty fast. Jackson wants to return to the hospital. Margaret tells him she doesn't know how, but she believes something good is coming from all of this. He goes into the shop. She asks a kid nearby for help. Inside, Jackson contacts the doctor to update her on their location. When he steps outside, Margaret is gone. The kid tells him she said she loves him, but had to leave. At a motel, Daniel talks to Hugo over the call. Daniel's memories are starting to resurface, strange flashes he can't locate in his actual past. He asks Hugo whether he was recruited for a specific purpose. Hugo confirms it. Everything will make sense in time. They plan to head to KCXE the following morning. After the call, Daniel hides every piece of paper which has the motel name on it. After Jane's shower, Daniel shows her Margaret's footage. She's rambling in what sounds like total gibberish to Jane, but Daniel says he hears it as mathematics that translates into English in his mind. He shows her the corresponding mathematical pattern. He says when he looks at it, he can hear what Margaret is saying in the video. Jane asks him to tie her wrists before she sleeps. She cannot be trusted during the night.
You can't trust me anymore.
Later that night, Noah reestablishes the connection with Jane while she's bound and awake. He searches the room through her perception and spots a piece of paper with motel's address written on it. The location is confirmed. Hugo's man arrives to collect them at exactly the same moment hundreds of agents converge on all sides. Daniel spots them through the window. He wakes Jane, locks them both in the bathroom. He helps her climb out the window and presses cash into her hand. An agent breaks in. Daniel gives Jane the device and tells her to run. She escapes. Hugo's man also gets away separately. The agents search the room and ask Daniel where the device is. He just laughs. Noah has Daniel brought to his base. He first secures the drives before demanding anything else. Then, he wants names. Every member of Hugo's team. The location of every drive. Meanwhile, Margaret is driving when a vision strikes her and she makes a sudden U-turn, heading directly toward the Wardex base. She pulls up to the gate. She meets the guard's eyes and reads his entry code from his own memory. He lets her through. Inside, she approaches another agent and tells him everything about himself, his entire private world visible to her in seconds. She requests to see Noah. The agent takes her to the van. Inside the van, everyone goes still when they realize who she is. She moves toward Daniel. Noah intervenes, but the moment he looks into her eyes, he sees his wife, the wife he lost. He stops completely. Boyd tries to step in. Noah tells him to back off. Margaret reaches Daniel. He says he recognizes her. She feels exactly the same. The sense of having always known each other, of finally arriving somewhere after a very long journey. Boyd warns the agents not to let them leave. They walk toward the exit. The drives are tucked in a backpack. Every agent in the van sees something different in Margaret's face. The person they love most in the world. Their children, their partners, their parents. Nobody can stop them. They walk out. Boyd comes after them alone. On the road, Margaret tells Daniel everything she knows about the last few days of his life, including details about Jane, because when she meets someone's eyes, she can see their entire history. Daniel asks when this started. She says after the bird. He tells her the same thing happened to him in his 20s. One day he saw a cardinal bird, and from that moment, mathematics and binary code became effortless, a language he simply knew. He lost friendships in those years, made wrong choices, ended up in prison. He rebuilt from nothing. Now he understands why it happened. They stop at a rail gate. Boyd crashes into them from behind, forcing the car toward the train tracks. Margaret reverses. He hits them again, pushing them onto the tracks. The car gets caught in the train's wheels and dragged. They scramble out. Another train is coming from the opposite direction. Boyd is behind them, firing. Daniel leaps onto the moving train. Margaret reaches for his hand. The second train is almost on her. She jumps with a fraction of a second to spare. The trains pass. Boyd loses them. On the train, Margaret starts shaking. She's afraid this is her father's Parkinson's finally arriving. Daniel reassures her that it isn't. Hugo is meeting with his people when he suddenly feels nauseous and orders everyone out of the room. Noah is using the device on him now. Hugo warns him not to overuse it. He doesn't understand its full potential. Noah demands to know whether a classified entity called In Vivo 17 instructed Hugo to recruit Daniel. He accuses Hugo of betraying humanity. Hugo tells him he doesn't understand what they actually are. Their empathic connection is not a weakness, it's part of who they are. Noah labels him a traitor. Just then, two of Hugo's people walk in. Noah catches a glimpse of them and immediately has an agent identify who they are and track their movements. Jane is at a cafe calling Sister Mora. A waitress comes over and tells Jane that some men said she would be paying for letting her use their phone. She asks Sister Mora a question she's been turning over. Did God only create humans? Sister Mora says she believes God made the vast universe for more than just them. Jane wonders whether people would stop believing if they found out about other powerful beings. Sister Mora says she doesn't think so. She encourages Jane to have faith in humanity. Then Jane asks Sister Mora to find out what KCXE is. She overheard Daniel mention it. On the street, Daniel and Margaret are surrounded by firefighters, but they turn out to be Hugo's crew. They confirm identities before taking them to the main base. Hugo is thrilled to finally meet them both. Margaret avoids looking at him directly. She looks around the room and recognizes every single person in it, names them before being introduced to any of them. She notices the structure they've built, a replica of her childhood home, detail for detail. Hugo asks why she won't look at him. She says if she does, she'll know everything he knows, and she's not ready for it yet. She questions why they built her house. Hugo tells her she needs to remember. She doesn't want to. Feeling overwhelmed, she runs into the house and finds it exactly as she remembers. Every room, every detail, her childhood bedroom as it was. Hugo and Daniel follow her inside. Hugo explains what he needs from her. She has to unlock the memory she shared with Daniel, something that has been deliberately blocked. Others arrive with equipment. She insists she's not ready. She doesn't want to remember. Hugo tells her she has incredible power, but she cannot control it because she doesn't yet understand its purpose. Both she and Daniel were given gifts. Daniel received the ability to understand universal languages, mathematics, binary, the systems underlying all communication, so he could grasp an alien language. Margaret was given the power of empathy, the ability to connect with any human being at the deepest level. Together, they are a bridge between two species that have never been able to reach each other. Hugo pulls out the device he took from Wardex's vault and places it in both their hands. Margaret suddenly sees herself as a child, singing a song she was never taught. Then animals rush in from everywhere, not appearing at a window, actually rushing in. Daniel, watching from outside the memory, shouts that they aren't really animals. Hugo explains calmly. They take this form so as not to frighten anyone. The animals lead child Margaret outside, through the snow, to a house in the woods. Inside, she finds herself in a lab. The animals reveal their true alien forms. Young Daniel is lying next to her, frightened. She takes his hand to comfort him. The aliens inject their power into both children. The device powers down. In that exact instant, Margaret gains her full abilities. She looks directly at Hugo for the first time. She understands everything. Wardex has been monitoring the employees' movements. They arrive and surround the building. Margaret immediately asks for the device. The agents enter and find the place apparently deserted. She has used the device to cloak everyone. The heat signature shows many people are inside. The agents can't see them, but they can see the device lighting up. Margaret warns everyone they need to move quickly. Daniel opens the door and everyone files out quietly. Noah shouts for silence. Agents spot the moving light. He instructs them to retrieve it. They crash into an invisible barrier. One agent walks directly into a door. They send in more. The group loads into fire trucks. The agents hit the tracks. Others push them off the path. The trucks start up and activate their sirens. The agents instinctively clear the way. The invisible fire trucks speed out in different directions. Boyd can't determine which to follow. Noah says there's only one destination. The device burns out from overuse, but it gave them enough time. Everyone converges on the Kansas City news studio, KCXE. Inside, Margaret finds her boss. She meets his eyes and reads him completely. She mentions the studio needs to be used for a special broadcast. He agrees. He tells them to follow his lead. Hugo asks about the truck unloading area. He needs it for something arriving later. Daniel asks to be shown the control room. Once inside, he tells them he's going to upload large files that need to be broadcast. The producer approaches Margaret privately. She says thank you. She had contacted the police and she is safe now. Noah arrives with his agents and immediately splits them into two teams. One to locate the power source, one to find the backup generator and dismantle both. A truck arrives outside with a large package at the unloading area Hugo asked about. The agents set charges at both power sources. A blast takes out the main power. The backup generator kicks in, a brief window. Margaret urges Daniel to hurry. They're outside. The upload completes. They are ready to broadcast. Then the agents find the backup generator and shut it down. Everything goes dark. Noah walks into the studio, ready to make arrests. Then, Jane slips in behind him and gets the device to Margaret. Margaret holds it up. Everyone steps back. Noah looks at it. Then he looks at her. He walks to a chair and sits down. Boyd asks whether he's going to stop this. Noah says he just wants to watch the show. Boyd leaves with the agents. With the device, Margaret restores power to the entire building. Daniel connects to the global news agency. This cannot be local. Every outlet needs it simultaneously. The camera goes live. Margaret tells the world that Wardex, a secret non-government organization, has spent decades suppressing evidence of alien life, mistreating extraterrestrial beings, and exploiting their technology for private gain. Today is Disclosure Day. Daniel plays the footage. Military craft alongside alien spacecraft, crash site recovery, alien bodies, living extraterrestrials being experimented on. Every news outlet breaks away from its own programming. The footage spreads globally in minutes. Governments watch. Militaries watch. The entire world watches. And the impending war stops. Not through negotiation, but because every military on Earth is suddenly looking at something so much larger than any territorial dispute that the dispute loses all meaning. Hugo brings a large box to the center of the studio floor. An old alien emerges from inside. Daniel and Margaret approach. The alien and Daniel exchange words, back and forth, in the binary language only Daniel can receive. Daniel relays the message to Margaret. She looks into the camera. She asks the world to listen. And the film ends before we hear the message. The final message was always yours to decide. Overall, I would give it a rating of 8.5 out of 10. Spielberg returns to the question he has been asking for 50 years. This time, he trusts you to answer it yourself. That's Disclosure Day. Drop your answer below. What do you think the alien said? If this is your kind of content, like, subscribe, and join me. One story at a time. See you on the next one.